From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Today on the pod, we take a psychological deep dive into gambling behavior and avoidance. Have you ever won a bet? When it comes time for the payout, the losing party all of a sudden is super busy and doesn't have time for the all-you-can-eat sushi that you were owed? Is that genetic or is it a learned behavior? We'll find out today. And now, broadcasting from a Level 9 Studios, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
You'll get your sushi, Tangeman. Okay?
Yeah, when?
You'll get your sushi. When you want it. I don't get any texts from you.
I wanted it.
Did you know? So,
okay.
I don't know. I mean, I give you that. Well, I gave you my beeper number. You don't use it.
It has been almost impossible just to schedule doing a podcast.
That's pretty true. At this point, if we have the time, we're doing the podcast. Yeah. Not let alone all that stuff we promised people for May, which we haven't done any of.
And the book club we haven't finished yet.
There will be a book club. It's going to start in May. No, screw the last one. Okay, that one's dead now. Enough time's gone by.
For those of you who
nobody will ask.
Have read chapter 8, then
good job.
Yeah, good for you.
But pick up Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb, who is now, I will add, that book is now a New York Times bestseller. You're welcome, Lori.
Yeah.
That's the Pod Therapy bump.
Yep.
That's the power.
We did it.
That's right.
we did it.
Yeah. On Twitter, I was calling out Oprah, and she didn't reply.
Right. So we have a guest in the studio today. We have Tracy.
Hi, Mom.
We have Jim's mom, who came all the way up here to be on the podcast.
She did. Say something, Mom.
Hi.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
You're doing really good.
All right, that's enough.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Go wait in the car. So, Mom, thank you for joining the show.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining me for dinner and for coming out to take care of me post-vasectomy. That was nice of you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm healing very well. Thanks for asking, Dick.
I didn't care. But,
you mocked
since you
me.
brought it up.
Yeah, you texted me. You're like, how are you? And I told you my truth, and you made fun of me.
Yes.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Remind me never to tell you anything. Fantastic. You're like, man up. I'm like, no. No. Something bad happened to me. Leave me alone.
You might be dramatizing it a little bit.
It was very unpleasant. So
really?
Mine was very unpleasant. And so I did not, you definitely oversold it. Like I called him that morning and I was like, hey man, I'm like white as a ghost walking through Walmart, like buying all the crap I'm going to need for this. And I'm like, hey, can you talk me through it? And he goes, oh, no big deal. His words, and I quote, I would get one every year if I could, which says a lot about him.
Well, he called me too.
Yeah.
And,
I called her outside of the office.
And he never calls me.
Yeah.
So automatically I'm thinking, oh no, something's wrong. Or it could be because I'm coming up, that evening I was coming in. And then he just was very, Mom, I got to talk to you.
I didn't even think you knew I was getting a vasectomy.
I didn't.
That was the night she was flying in, too.
Anything. Yes. Yeah. He did it so I could take care of him this weekend.
Yeah, that was the whole trick.
So,
This is all making sense.
He asked me if I'd known anybody that had gotten him. And I said his uncles and my husband. And he said, well, how are they? And I said, oh, fine, no big deal. I wasn't about to tell him the truth.
Yeah, that it sucks.
He would have backed out.
It was a very terrible experience. I did not enjoy it.
My poor baby.
Not 5 for 5 stars. You made it sound like nothing.
It was nothing.
You said that it took 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It took mine 45 minutes.
The bigger?
Yeah. He said it takes 3 minutes per inch. So 15? I guess that's fine. See, not all of us get to live that way.
Wait, per inch. What exactly did you have cut off?
Really?
Yeah.
I think
we were supposed to take out your kidney?
I think we had
That was
different
weird.
procedures. I don't think we went through the same thing.
Yeah, it was really weird. Yeah, it half colonoscopy, half kidney. I don't know what was going on. So
strange.
Dark room, lots of hands, but I got through it.
Right.
But it's done now. So I can walk in a straight line and sit on things. So doing better, but I definitely spent like 2 days just iced.
Were you in pain?
It was pretty negative. I mean, I don't know. Like, I've had other outpatient surgery and you have to keep in mind like anxiety, right? So like anxiety is already pretty tough.
So you make pain worse.
No, it wasn't that it's more pain in my case. I'm sure that can happen. Absolutely. The more you think about pain, the more it will happen. It wasn't that it was painful. It was that it was frightening. And so like the procedure itself, like I did have the experience where I had to tell him like, hey, I can feel that. And he had to like go, oh my God, and like pull out more needles and like take care of me because I felt it. So like I told him like, hey, I can feel the sharp thing. And he's like, oh shit. And so like he starts stabbing me. So that was unpleasant. And then
was this done by a doctor?
Yeah. Best doctor I've seen on Craigslist. So yeah, I got a discount. I don't have insurance. Thanks, Trump. Jim's having to do like a vasectomy, tire care, and lube over here.
Maybe I just had an amazing doctor.
Maybe you did. But mine was, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't too bad, for all the men who are considering it. It's don't let me talk you out of it. I mean, a couple days later, I'm fine. But the procedure itself, it's surgery. It definitely is surgery. And that requires them to do things to you physically. And so, they talked to me the whole time, like talked me through it. I stayed calm. I got through it. And then it was in the aftermath that I actually had a hard time. So it was after they finished and then they walked out and they just kind of leave you there for a little while. And I think partly it was the anesthetic that they used because they did tell me that like it was getting into my blood a little bit. And I'm like a super lightweight, like I've literally never even smoked weed. And so like it hit me pretty hard. And like then I started having this weird panic of like, oh my God, am I okay? Like, am I dying? And so it was very bad. So I had an anxiety attack like there by myself. They gave me a sucker and they told me to like suck on this lollipop because it was like the sugar is good for you or something. So I'm sitting there sucking on this lollipop all by myself, like covered in post-surgical crap. And then like, I'm just like crying, like having an anxiety attack.
Hold on. Kate, I hope you're listening.
Kate, you are forbidden from drawing this. No. You are forbidden.
Kate, stop everything else that you're working on right now and get on this.
I threw the sucker at the door to get help because I couldn't get my voice loud enough. And I was like, help me, help. And so then I took the sucker and I threw it at the door as hard as I could. And like it was like a Tootsie Rub. So it like popped out the door. And then the nurse comes and just like, did you just throw something? And I'm like, help me. She's like, okay, lay back. Like, we're going to put ice on your head. Like over time, I eventually came out of it. But it was pretty intimidating. So super negative. Kate, don't draw any of this.
Yes, Kate.
That's my mom's favorite comic. You were just telling me. You really,
yes, I really enjoy that.
It has its own Instagram now.
Yeah.
I think it's called Pod Therapy Comic.
Yeah, I think so.
That's it. Yeah, that's super cool. So that's one of our listeners, and she's a future therapist. So she's actually in school right now. And yeah. She draws us for funsies, and then she tolerates my requests because I'm like, I want to be a superhero and I want to be muscular, and she's like, fine.
Okay.
Humor him.
If she can make you a superhero, if she can do that for you, she can do this for me.
I want a cartoon about vasectomy.
Yes. Not a cartoon about a vasectomy. About you getting a vasectomy.
Whining.
Remember that it was a red Tootsie Pop, and then I threw it at the door. And that is how I called for help. And you too can get through anxiety with the careful use of candy.
That is amazing.
So it was not pleasant. So I'm feeling much better.
Yeah, I'm glad you're
I'm out of the baby business. No mas. Yeah. So
excellent.
It's good. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yep.
So since we have your mom here, we went to the internet and solicited some questions for you.
Yep.
Because
listeners dutifully answered.
And they are very curious.
Yeah, there was a lot. So I posted a picture of my mom and I in front of my office, and a lot of people said things. Some things inappropriate.
Yes, that's okay. Well, let's just go to that one first. The first question for you, Tracy. A lot of people asked this. They said she looks way too young to be Jim's mom. Yeah. And what is your aging secret?
What's your trick?
Vitamin E.
Is that sunlight?
No, it's D.
No, I take the vitamin E capsules and open them and put them on my skin. I'm 54.
I almost look older than you.
He does.
It's getting weird.
Yeah,
I have like a lot of wrinkles. Yeah.
Well, we both have the big wrinkle in the forehead.
On the forehead?
That's just
I get that from Dad, I think.
No, from me. From the day you were born. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But no, I'm Irish, Scottish, and Spanish.
Which means we have terrible skin.
We burn in the sun.
Yeah, we
and
burn
I get
in the moon.
Sun poisoning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I stay out of the sun.
Yeah,
and I take vitamin E, and I don't smoke.
Yeah.
I'm pretty boring.
And you had me when you were 11.
I had him when I was 20.
That helps.
Yeah.
How old are you now? 54?
I will be in May.
Oh, okay. Happy birthday.
Yeah, don't forget.
I will. Maddie will text me.
Exactly.
She does it every year.
After I remind
Mom's
her.
birthday. And then I just text her back. I go, what did we get her? She goes, Venmo me $50.
She takes care of you.
Done.
You're lucky.
Yeah, no, that's the deal. We have a very symbiotic relationship. Hi,
Excellent.
Maddie. I'm sure she's listening to this.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure she's been waiting for
she's
this
listening.
episode.
Attention to this
She'll be
episode.
listening.
Yeah. Linda B asks, excuse me, how worried were you of what would become of Jim when he grew up? Asking as a mom of 4 grown men who thought they might not survive their teens.
4
Wow.
sons.
That's
Good
a
Lord.
really good question.
Yeah.
With Jimmy, he was a very good boy. And I'm not just saying that. He really was. Until he reached teen years. I think it was probably 15. He started on the debate team. Did you know that he was on the debate team?
I don't know if you knew this, Nick.
I don't know if you knew
I don't know
that,
if you
Nick.
knew this, Nick, but I was on the debate team.
Did you know that he
was a really
the
big deal.
captain of the debate
I
team?
mean, that's not a big deal, but I was the captain.
Did
of
you
the
know he
debate
won the national championship?
Ah, you didn't know that, did you,
Yeah,
bitch?
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well,
My
we-
mom's here. I have one fan. This is
number
it.
one fan.
This is my moment.
She's your hype man.
She is my only hype man. It's funny because like I'd bring girls over and she'd be like, "Do you know he's on the debates?" I'm like, "Shut up, mom." No, I'm not. I smoke cigarettes.
And that's when they laugh.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I gotta go.
No, but we were the recipients of his debate.
Yeah.
And I remember
that's
one
sassy.
specific time, he stood at the top of the stairs because I think he was almost 15
I
and
remember this.
he wanted a computer in his room.
This was back in the 90s.
And our rule was we inspected what we expected as
Good rule.
parents. We were vigilant. You had to be
when
vigilant.
they started inspecting my computer, things got weird.
But yeah, that would be me.
Right.
But my husband made us pick our battles. So a lot of stuff he didn't know.
Yeah, for the best.
Yeah, exactly. But he stood up at the top of the stairs and he started saying all the reasons why he should have a computer in his room. And he was going contention 1 and he was using all this debate.
Oh, so he
crap.
was even obnoxious while doing it.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I'm
gosh.
standing down there
terrible.
looking.
Go figure.
Yeah. And he's at the top of the stairway. We're downstairs looking up at him, listening to him.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, are we just going to let him do this? Just come down here. I want to smack the crap out of him.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my husband like, are you going to do anything? And he just let him finish. And then he says, I'm sorry. Were you under the impression that this was a democracy in this house?
Yeah.
Because it's not.
I own you.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
But
then I
no-
woke up a week later. And
But no, to answer her question, I'm a Christian woman. And from the moment that I knew I was pregnant with Jimmy, and this is a true story, I knew he was going to be something important when he grew up. I had no doubt.
what did you think I was going to do?
I didn't know. A part of me thought that he would be a pastor, which he is.
I did that. Yeah.
But I knew that he was, you're going to make fun of this, but I knew he was going to
Probably.
be greatness in some sort.
Nick accepts this.
Yes, it's a
Nick
fact.
tells me it
Nick.
every day. It's on my friendship bracelet.
No, but
It was in my birthday card.
I knew he was going to have a job to do, and it was not going to be easy.
Yeah.
But I had no worries because I just prayed over him every single night. When he reached teens, it became a little harder. We had to be more vigilant. But when he hit 15 and a half, it was like this magic number. All of a sudden, he started working up to everybody's expectations because he was an overachiever. He was a higher level thinker, but he was a slacker
fantastic.
until he
Oh,
reached
okay.
15.
Make sure
And
you look
then-
Nick in the eye when you say
And then
all
he
this.
started striving for it. Yeah, it makes it
is
sound like
fantastic.
I'm just you know, I'm making this crap up, but it's true now.
You know who's going to have a field day with this is Jacob. Jacob's going to hear all this
Yeah,
and just like,
I wish Jacob was here because
Yeah.
I remember watching a little video of you two when Jimmy.
yeah, I never went back to see what Jacob did to mock me.
He was going, "Oh, I'm Mr. Jim. I know stuff," and he was sitting in your
That's a
chair.
dead-on impression of Jacob. I feel like you just nailed it.
Dead on
he's
impression
right
of
here.
him impressing.
Yeah,
impression.
it's a very meta impression. So that's a good question, Linda B.
Okay, thank you, Linda B. Scoopy Jess asks, what is the secret to her youthful look? We've already
Vitamin
got
E,
that.
apparently.
Yeah. Yep.
And don't go in the sun ever.
Yep.
That helps.
Ulrich which I know I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah.
Ulrike.
Yeah. Get him. You tortured me for months.
To be fair.
Get Nick.
All right. Fine.
You've unleashed it now.
Her
she
question.
likes you because you're Iowish.
Yep. That gives me a little bit of
you get a lot of points for that.
Her question, what were you thinking?
That's
her
was
question.
Only question.
She asked
About
that question. We don't know. She asked that anytime we have a guest. We ask questions.
She just wants to know, what were you thinking?
Right now I'm thinking I have to go to the bathroom. But
okay. Good question. Solid. This is the hard-hitting journalism that has made Pod Therapy famous.
Jeffrey Ackerman, what is one activity that you two like doing together, and what is your favorite movie?
Well, 50 Shades of Grey.
No, shut up. God.
Poor little man. No.
Go on.
We watched it together. That was the weirdest Mother's Day I've ever. That was a weird night.
Was I not supposed to say that?
Yeah.
No. My favorite movie is Bridesmaids with Melissa McCarthy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's funny. And Dirty Dancing. It's always been my favorite.
Yeah, Patrick Swayze.
Yes.
I remember having to watch that a lot.
Yep.
That was weird.
And what was the second part of that?
What do we like
what
to
do
do
you like
together?
to do together?
We don't ever really see each other unless I come up here. But what I
So I'm
enjoy,
hearing you say that Jim doesn't come visit you.
No, he doesn't.
No.
And nor does he call me, Nick.
No.
And nor does he answer my text when I text him, Nick.
Yeah.
So,
He just assumes.
he doesn't answer my texts either.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that's
I'm
a
the
general
mother.
common
No, that's
theme.
true. Yeah.
Do you answer your mom's texts?
Yes.
He's
No,
a
you
good
don't.
boy.
Yes, and I call her.
Get her
Oh
on
my
the
gosh.
phone. I don't believe you.
He's a good boy.
I don't believe you. You're throwing me under the bus. You don't answer your mom.
Well, whatever.
No,
No.
we.
I answer your mom's text.
When I come up here, I'm going to smash you. We talk, and I enjoy catching up on things, and I just enjoy speaking to my son. So,
Great.
Well, I enjoy speaking to you too.
Oh, you guys.
And I'm glad that you fly all the way out here to talk to me.
I have to. You don't call me.
Yeah, that is the thing. So,
All right, next question from Slinky. And I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. SLINQUI.
I see it as Slinky.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen
She
that name.
follows us on Twitter.
And Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What is a cute/weird thing that Jim has done from childhood to adulthood? Does it delight you or concern you?
Jeez, that's broad.
Well,
let's keep it PG, Mom.
I don't know. What comes to mind is he tries to take care of everybody in his family. He's very family oriented. But every now and then when he's vulnerable, he'll call me mommy. And he'll get upset about something and say, okay, mommy, I love you. That's how he uses mommy. And that's like once every 4 years. But Shut
up, Nick.
Am I in trouble? Am I in trouble?
Yeah. Nope. Cut the recording, Scott.
Nope.
Leaving.
No, but he does that, and he always gives me. I was talking about this earlier with Nick. I almost said Nate, which you would have.
She's been calling you Nate for days. She's been saying, "Oh, I want to go on the show with Nate," and I'm like, and I don't correct her. And then Janelle's like, "His name's Nick," and I'm like, "Why did you do that?" I wanted her to do that on the show. Anyway,
I've been called worse.
No, but he always, when I come to see him, he always has a list of dishes that he wants me to cook for him.
This is true. Does your mom call you Nicky?
No.
She just calls you Nick.
If she calls me anything at all.
Yeah. She doesn't call
she
you
calls me Nick.
Nicholas.
Which we should note for the listener, because the listener doesn't know this. Everybody who knows you knows you as Jimmy.
Yeah. People that grew up with me.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always called you Jim.
Yeah.
Until I met Laura, who I figured out.
Did she call me Jimmy too?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because I grew up in middle school.
Yeah, and because I remember when we first met, or when Laura and I first figured out that we both knew you.
Yeah.
How she's like, oh, you call him Jim?
You both opened your wallets
weird.
and had the same picture in it?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
You know Jim?
Yeah.
You mean Jimmy Jobin? I think that's who I made.
All
this
right.
is true.
Joseph Pangrazio asks, does Jim need a new dad?
These are one of the inappropriate questions that came in.
No, he does not.
He does not.
Spot's taken, Joe.
Sorry. All right, Jim. this one is anonymous. Jim and his mom both have a son and a daughter. What are each of your views on raising both boys and girls and treating them equally?
That's a good question.
Well, we pretty much did treat them equally as far as I can remember. I grew up with 4 brothers.
3.
I always had stepbrother, 4. And I was the only girl, so I was definitely, you can't do that because you're a girl. So when I had Jimmy, he was almost 8 years older than his sister. But we tried to treat them both the same, validate who they were, their weaknesses, their strengths. We didn't treat them any differently.
Oh, okay. Because there's actually a follow-up question here.
Oh, it's got to be from Maddie.
Anonymous writes, really? Then why did you let Jimmy go to Europe when he was 16 years old and wouldn't let me go on a 5-day cruise to Cozumel with my friends when I was 16? You let him tour Italy and Greece for like a month. Explain your hypocrisy. Anonymous.
Thank you, Anonymous. That's a very specific question.
She's gone from here to here.
You don't know who it is.
It is so much her sister.
Don't assume the writer.
Well, Jimmy went to Europe with a special class of his. It was a higher learning education. I can't remember exactly what it was. But at the same time he was there, my daughter, who is anonymous, was
allegedly
in California on her very first camping trip. She was 8 years old, and I was a basket case, and it was a mess. I had one in Europe.
She came back with an entire camera of pictures of trees.
Yes,
rocks.
yes, she did. I had one in Europe, one in California. Ever. It was horrendous. And then when it was time for her to go, I didn't want her on a boat. It was different. Didn't want her on a boat. And her dad had a lot to do with that. Okay. So let's just pass the buck.
Well, there you go. Hypocrisy, ladies and gentlemen. You caught it right here. Good job, Maddie. Well played.
All right. And we have another one, another anonymous one.
She's been busy.
Jacob and Nick tease Jim for being overconfident. Many men's confidence has been shaken by their parents over time. How did you balance building Jim's confidence with correcting his character flaws? And what advice do you have for raising boys to become decent men? I think this one's... did you write that?
I did not.
Are you sure?
I did not.
This sounds like a Jim question.
Yeah, well, because it's well written. What are your thoughts on that, Mom?
Well...
how do you build up somebody's confidence without hurting them?
We were just talking about this on the way here, as a matter of fact. In my day, it was a total different thing where if a grown-up or a parent or a teacher said that your child did something wrong, they were right. Your child was not asked their opinion or what happened. Mm-hmm. They were punished. With my children, I validated them. Maybe I validated Jimmy a little too much.
What?
But I validated them. I didn't automatically take the teacher's side. I listened to it, the story. And then I supported them. You have to pick your battles. And if we have a minute, I want to tell one of these scenarios. Yeah. When Jimmy was 17, I think he was a senior in high school.
Oh, we're out of time. Thanks for coming.
No, he wanted to wear flip-flops to school. And it was forbidden because you could go up the stairs, somebody could step on your flip-flop, you could fall, hurt yourself. So Jimmy decided he was going to wear flip-flops anyway. And he made posters to hang around the school. And they had Martin Luther King on them and the saying. And he had this whole thing. So I was called into the office to come and get him because he was constructing a riot, they said.
Because instigating a riot.
That could happen. And the principal was out of town. So the vice principal took me, or dean took me in the office and was telling me how horrible my child was. And they handed me the poster that he made, and it was with Martin Luther King and a saying. And I remember being so proud of how ingenious he was. And yes, he was on the edge of authority, over not listening to authority, but I felt like we taught him to stand up for his rights and what he believed. And he was doing it in a correct way.
Yeah, it was being oppressed.
Right.
much like Martin Luther King.
Oh, yeah. Martin Luther King would be very proud.
He was right there with me.
Yeah.
I feel like the spirit.
So,
if you're wondering
if he was
at
alive
home,
today.
the quote was, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
That's true.
And I felt that a dress code that was unjust was just as dangerous to society.
Yes.
I was 17.
He was 17.
Please do not send me.
Spoken like a true white male.
Don't at me. Yeah. Okay, 17-year-old Jim was very privileged. Okay, let's leave this alone. But thank you, Mom. That's
well,
a nice
I'm not done. Hold on. Yeah, it gets better. So
good.
Jimmy got suspended for 5 days.
I did. I was a bad boy, Nick, getting suspended from school.
I had to rush home and talk to his dad about it. And then Jimmy decided to take his own allowance and go to a lawyer and fight the school system.
What?
And we knew that it wasn't going to work, but you had to see it through. You had to support your kid so that they could learn.
That was fun.
We were with them, as they said, looked him straight in the eye and said, you're just a little guy. You can't beat the school system. But
he took my money, though.
He took
I'm sure he did.
The lawyer did not say no.
Which I think was the best learning experience you probably could have gotten.
Don't go to the lawyers.
Let me sum it up here so you guys can move on. The next day I get called and everybody was wearing flip-flops at school. And somebody had made these stickers that said, "Save Jimmy."
It was flip-flops for freedom. So they made these bulletin boards that said flip-flops for freedom. And they had stickers with my face
Jimmy.
on them.
Even the teachers.
Yeah, and all the people wore flip-flops, right? Because they heard I got expelled. And so then they had like T-shirts made. It was like expel students for doing something wrong. And like, it was awesome, right? So flash forward. So anyway, I was suspended for 5 days. And they ended up getting rid of the stupid thing. And, it was no big deal or whatever. So flash forward to, whatever, 20-something years later. Here I am now. One day I'm sitting down with a new client and we're working on whatever they're working on. And the client says to me, my wife knows who you are. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, how is that possible? It's, the wife grew up in Vegas. Oh, okay. Yeah, so did I. You guys went to the same high school. I'm like, really? That's crazy. So one day, just through the course of events, wife comes to a session and I say, I don't recognize you. And she says, well, I know who you are, but I don't think we've ever met. And I go, how do you, I wasn't popular. I'm thinking maybe that debate team thing finally paid off. And she goes, no, you're the flip-flops for freedom guy. I was like, yeah, that was me. And she goes, thank you for your sacrifice, Jim. You inspired us all that day. We'll never forget. And I was like, wow, I was the one. So.
Not all heroes wear capes.
That's right.
They wear flip-flops.
That's right.
That's right. Some wear flip-flops. Good job, Mom.
Wow. Okay. I learned so much.
Yeah. Important stuff. So.
Okay. Well, that's all of our questions
Mom.
from the listeners.
Thank you.
So now we're usually going to pivot into questions about people's lives that we're going to do advice on, and you're welcome to chip in and help us through.
Okay.
Also, if you want to go pee, you're welcome to do that.
I'm good now.
Okay. What? Wait, what? Scott, do we have to pay extra for that?
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will discuss relationship struggles. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Robert Brownie Jr. Mintz. Robert Brownie Jr. Mintz is also known as the first black president, and he was also well known for his great saxophone skills and his notorious affair with an intern at the White House. If you know who Jim's really describing, write your answer on the back of a $20 bill and send it to the church. If you'd like to join Robert Brownie Jr. Mint and make the show possible, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy. Also, my mom is a Patreon, so you can join her too. We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy, and our next question is about relationship struggles. Hey, Jim and Nick. Get ready for a long one here. I've debated sending a letter before because I knew it would be long. But my head is so messed up that now I have to say something. Here goes. My boyfriend and I have gone through a very difficult year and a half. To break it down into point form, here are the basics. Number 1, we got together. He has a daughter. I had never wanted kids and have anxiety issues when interacting with them, so I was slow to become involved in their lives. In the meantime, our relationship was amazing. Talking, moving in together, getting married, throwing the word soulmate around, and the whole shebang. Number 2, first meeting with his daughter did not go well. I had an anxiety attack, and she's a very shy kid, so it was difficult. Number 3, We continued having strained visits with his daughter. Some days went better than others, but otherwise, as far as I was concerned, the relationship was good. Number 4, flash forward to about a year and a half into our relationship. He suddenly decides that he can't be with me because I have such a hard time with his daughter. Number 5, the next day he calls me apologizing and saying we can work through it. Number 6, we continued to work through things and I did my best to coexist peacefully with his daughter. Number 7, in the meantime, we had befriended a couple he knew from his pool league. This couple became close friends to ours, but they broke up soon after their wedding. The woman in the couple remained a close friend to both of us. Number 8, some time goes by and he tells me he is moving out. He says he is going to live on his own to learn to be by himself, which is something that scares him greatly. He also begins to see a counselor as he is beginning to recognize that he has a problem with depression. After some back and forth with him, he admits that he had not actually moved into his own place, but was actually living with the woman who was our couple friend, and they are now together. Number 9, he contacts me after a couple months saying he has made a huge mistake, that he loves me, that I'm his soulmate, that he wants to work things out, and that it's all over with the other woman. I give him the chance to do so as long as he continues working with his counselor and working his personal issues out. Number 10, again after some time, he leaves again, saying he wants to be with this other woman and that she can be the mother to his daughter, that I can't. Number 11, while he is gone, in addition to being heartbroken about all this, my ex-husband died suddenly, big trauma, and an email for another day. Boyfriend reaches out when he heard about it to express his condolences. He also made a point to do some nice things for me, mowing my lawn, etc. I was very guarded about all of the contact he was making, as he had been free and clear with the other woman, and although I was still in love with him, I was trying to accept that he was gone. He eventually asked for us to try again, and again I say we can try as long as he continues to work on himself. He removes the other woman from our lives completely, and he is certain of what he wants. Number 12. The next 4 months are the best ever. It's like when we first started dating. Everything is great. Number 13. I came home from work one day to a note from him saying that he's sorry for lying to me, but that he had fallen in love with this other woman a year ago and that he was leaving. All of his belongings were gone. He had moved out and left me a Dear Jane letter. At this point, you must be saying good riddance to bad rubbish. And a part of me can agree with you in theory, but I love this man with all of my heart. Whether you believe in them or not, I believe he is my soulmate. I have not felt this way about anyone else in my life, not even my ex-husband. I wrote him a very long-winded letter, much like this one, telling him how upset I was, how I wanted him to find himself, how I wanted him to be happy, how I wished his daughter and I could have bonded better, and if in the future he ever wanted to come through the door again and honestly work on things, I would be open to it. There was some contact, asking for stored Christmas decorations, payments of remaining mutual bills, etc., etc. Small stuff, but without being pushy. When those contact moments came up, I would remind him that I loved him, and if he ever wanted to explore that again, that I would be open to it, just so he would know where my heart stood. Several months go by, and he reaches out saying that while he has tried, he cannot get me out of his head. He says he wants to talk to me and tell me everything. He says he wants to start over with a clean slate. I agreed to talk via email at first and asked him a million questions. To sum up, he was finally completely honest and candid. He admitted he had been having an affair with this woman on and off for the last year or so. He answered every question I had with bold-faced honesty that was very painful, but a big change from what he had been telling me from the beginning. He admitted that after the first bad meeting with his daughter so long ago, something in his brain started telling him that although he was so happy with me, that because I struggled on the kid front, our relationship had an expiration date. The other woman had failed to conceive several times with her ex-husband, so jumped at the chance to mother my boyfriend's daughter. This is what started him down the path that eventually led to an affair. He admitted that the depression he had started to see a long time ago had continued to get worse and just compounded onto itself because he hated the person and actions he was doing during the affair. I know he has never had good self-esteem, which he thinks stems from being told by his parents as a kid, there's always going to be someone out there better than you. I have also seen his parents blatantly favor his twin brother over him. After finally being honest, his depression was amped up big time. He is disgusted with himself, me too. He hates the person he has become, me too. He has no love for himself. He has had a couple near misses in terms of suicide attempts. He is also experiencing very bad insomnia. At best, he is getting 3 hours a night. We tentatively began seeing and dating each other again. I have helped him to move in with an old buddy of his. We have gone out on dates. He has been nothing but honest this time, and I recognize the change in him. But I also recognize the need for a lot of work. We both agreed that we had lost so much time together to the last year's mess and wanted to try to work through our issues together while also seeking help individually. We have been struggling to do so. He is so depressed that he says at times he can't see his love for me, while in the next hour, he could be so sure about our future that he talks about getting married. He says he has a voice in his head constantly telling him he will never be happy, that he doesn't deserve to be happy, that he's not worth anything, etc. He tries to shut that voice out, but as I'm sure you guys know, it's a very persistent voice. He has also said, after looking into his own head and heart, he knows that when we first started dating, he was the best version of himself and that he was the happiest he had been in his life. He wants to find that person again, but admits that he knows he has to fall in love with himself again before he can ever love me in that way. Once we came to that conclusion, we decided to take a step back. He is going to be alone. No dating, no nothing, and focus intensely on himself. He has begun speaking to a counselor through online venues until he can find someone in person to talk to, and they also thought he would make better progress alone and without trying to worry about a relationship on top of healing himself. This hurt to hear, but ultimately I know it's true. He has said to me that the ultimate goal is to be a healthy version of himself so he can come back and we can be happy together properly. I know that is what is best for him, but because of the past of him leaving and coming back over and over again, I struggle greatly with this. I am driving myself crazy coming up with the worst case scenario. I know, feelings aren't facts. This last time of him coming back and being honest has been completely different than the times before, and he hasn't given me any reason not to trust his actions, besides past behavior, which is hard to let go of. I know in order to trust him again, I have to give him the opportunity to gain it back, and this time apart is a very good way to work on this, but I'm still struggling so much with it. I am constantly worried I am going to lose him forever, even though he has told me that this time apart is not going to be permanent. His plan is to come back once he has healed and begun to properly heal himself. I just don't know how to deal with my own feelings about being apart during this time. I know I have my own self-esteem, anxiety, and depression to deal with too, but the worry of losing him ends up overriding everything. So now that you've received my wall of text, it's likely you won't want to read this on air. Wrong. Because Nick doesn't edit. Nope. Since it will take the whole damned episode. Sorry. I am looking to find help for myself, but have no benefits through work and not a lot of extra income to pay for a counselor. I'm in Canada, and as far as I know, if referred, a psychiatrist is covered, but not a counselor. I think I fall more into the counselor category, so I don't think my issues necessarily need treatment via medication, but more discussion and reflection. I just feel so lost, and the one person I would talk to about it is not with me while they heal and start their own comeback. What do I do in the meantime? Thanks for, at the very least, letting me get this all off my chest. Tess.
Okay. That was great. That's a good question. That's a really
listening?
good
Do you
question.
Want me to read it again?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Start from the top, Jim.
From the top. Scott, were you recording?
Yeah. Okay, that was a good dry run, guys. Let's try it again. That was a thorough email, though, Tess. I'm glad that you wrote it. I'm glad that it was liberating just to get it all out. And I know that in and of itself can be like a really therapeutic experience, just to write it all down, just to write down the story of it.
Right. And she brought up some really good points. Obviously, we can tell that she's a listener because she hit on some really good
Feelings
things.
Aren't facts.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. We talk about that all the time. And one other thing that I say a lot on this show, probably my favorite thing to say.
Baba Booey, Howard Stern.
No. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
Yeah.
He has proven that.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And sometimes we fall in love with people who are not stable. That's just reality. Sure. And I think that this is a good example of that. I think that he obviously has a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff that he's not dealing with. He doesn't seem to be ready to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And because you happen to be the one that falls in love with him. Now you're stuck and you're in that situation. But it's great that you made him getting help a condition of continuing that relationship.
Yeah, that's a home run.
Absolutely. Great job with that. Now, I think you need to take it the next step. I think the next step is you need to make it a condition that you get help before you have a relationship. Because one of the things that I know about relationships is that we tend to attract and become attracted to people who are at the same level that we're at.
Yes.
And I think that there's probably a lot of stuff going on internally that maybe you're not even recognizing about yourself that you still have to deal with. And I think that that's going to make it very difficult for you to move on. If that ends up happening, it's also going to make it very difficult for you to establish a relationship with him. If that ends up happening, I think you getting the help that you need is going to be vitally important.
Yeah, I think so too. And these yo-yo relationships are always really tricky, right? Because they end up with all these extra dynamics. Because when you're rejected by somebody and they may move on with somebody else or whatever, when they come back to you, it's very flattering, it's very affirming, and you don't have a lot of closure. And so it's like, oh, thank God. You feel like, okay, now I can be made whole, and there's something very relieving about it. There's something very healing about it. And that rush of euphoria can really blind us to, I think, what you're talking about, Nick, like conditions and reestablishing some kinds of standards for self-care. You don't get to leave me and say it was because of depression and then come back and you haven't dealt with your depression. And that is actually the first red flag test that I'm going to raise for you. Is whenever the gentleman, I don't think I got a name on that, he's now, quote unquote, single again, and he's working on himself. And historically, when he is single and working on himself, he starts looking around. And that's part of how he self-medicates his depression. It's part of how he seeks affirmation. It's part of how he tries to get out of his own head. And so it is entirely possible that that may happen again. And if you have actually created a boundary where you're not available, he may go back to that other person that he has historically been yo-yoing back to as well. And if that happens, I need you to realize that doesn't have very much to do with you at all.
Yes.
It has to do with his own vacancy and the void in his heart that he is seeking to fill with relationship. And that's really the key thing that I see in this, Nick.
And it keeps him from making progress.
Yes.
That's what I see too. That's kind of his drug in a sense.
Yes.
That keeps him stuck. He's feeling uncomfortable. He's feeling stressed. All these different feelings are coming up.
Yes.
So turn to the drug to numb everything. And it's an avoidant behavior.
Well, there's a shadow of truth to that in the letter because they talk about it and he says, oh, I realize I've never been single. I realize I need to work on myself. That's accurate.
Right.
And all listeners, go through your relationship history. And if you notice that you back to back are always in relationship and you've never really been single and you don't do well single, it means that that's an aspect of yourself you've never developed. And it's so unfamiliar to you that when you are single, you very quickly escape that, right? And that might mean that you jump into a relationship that isn't necessarily the full thing that you need. And again, it could just be another self-medication where you're evading things that scare you, like your own depression, your own loneliness, your own stuff. And this is where I'm really pleased to hear that both parties are working on this. I'm shocked to hear that Tess can't find a counselor. I know that healthcare systems are pretty complicated. I mean, Canada generally is good in the sense that you generally do have access to care.
Right.
I guess mental health isn't, necessarily included in that, or aspects of it perhaps aren't. But I would imagine your general physician can refer you to a counselor every bit as much as they can to a psychiatrist.
Right. I would definitely look into that. Look into an EAP program through your employer as well. That could be an option. The other thing too, absolute worst case scenario, you can always contact a therapist like we do here in the States, ask if there's any pro bono cases or if they have any pro bono time.
Yes. Or contact a university and ask if there's any student therapists that are taking cases, because almost any university that has a therapy program is going to have some kind of free clinic where the student therapists are earning their hours.
Yeah.
So definitely a couple of ideas.
Yeah, that would be good too.
So 2 dudes answered this. Let's turn it to you a little bit, Mom. So here this lady is going through this. You talk to a lot of women. We've talked a lot about that. Like a lot of women in your life have come to you, and younger women at your work and things like that. Look for mentorship. And you know, because they assume you're about 25, you know, like them apparently, because you have great skin. So, you know, as you hear this story, I mean, does it kind of hit you as like, gosh, lady, like, you know, you're kind of going back and forth here?
Well, what I've learned throughout life is that you can't fix somebody else, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
She mentioned early on in the letter that he was afraid, one of his fears were being alone.
Mm-hmm.
So he's jumping from relationship, trying to, like you said, fill that void and feel whole, because he doesn't realize that he has to work on himself, be comfortable with himself, be happy with himself, become to love himself before he can even start to like anyone else. And the whole time I was getting more concerned for her, because she's saying, okay, come and break my self-esteem, pull me down every time she takes him back.
Right.
And, you know, that just gets her right, like you said, right where he is. So I'm glad that they're both seeking help.
I think that's the right attitude about it. And I think anybody that's out there, if you're in a relationship that kind of has these recurring self-destructive patterns, whether that's breaking up and getting back together, a lot of couples have that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times a week I see couples that in between session, they've broken up and gotten back together. And now here we are doing couples counseling again. And it's like, they never even canceled their appointment. Right. Like, I just walk in like, hey guys, catch the Knights game. They're like, yeah, we got a divorce and we're back together again. And so I do see that a lot, but you know, to that point, people ask all the time, can people change? And I sure as hell hope so, or we're in the wrong business. Right. But I agree with what you said, Mom, which is, you can't necessarily change your spouse, right? Because you are too close to it. You don't have a point of leverage where you can be that outside perspective. They're going to take everything you say the wrong way.
Not only that, but a person completely has to reach their bottom barrel and they have to want to change.
Right.
Before that can even begin.
Right.
Yeah,
and
it's true.
Yeah. Going back to, you know, my favorite saying,
Baba Booey, Baba Booey.
That one. And what was the other one? I forgot the other one, because yeah, you're right about the Baba Booey one.
There was that other one that you've
the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior.
Yeah,
so one of the
chestnut.
The thing with that too, that I like to kind of illustrate is that doesn't mean that people can't ever change. Obviously, if we believe that, we wouldn't be doing the work that we're doing.
Right.
But it does imply that change doesn't happen easily, and there has to be a catalyst. There has to be something that motivates that person to realize, like, oh yeah, something's got to change. Something has to be different.
Negative consequences.
Yeah. And a lot of times, it tends to be negative consequences, because that's the biggest motivator.
Well, in
is
these
fear.
relationship hopping, that's part of it too, is you're evading negative consequences because you never spend a day alone.
Right.
You never have to face the loneliness of bad choices because you always have another person you can just open their door and walk into. And they're both like recharging in between the relationship, that they're welcoming you back. And that's where these things get really complicated.
And I think the other thing too, that, you know, going back to you, Tess, with me really urging you to get help, it sounds like you're already interested in doing that anyway. And I'm glad to hear that. And sometimes sending this message can sound harsh, but it's sometimes it's the truth that we have to look internally.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in a situation like this, it's really easy to become the victim and be like, this person is doing all of this. And can you believe all this? Can you believe what this person's doing? And it's so easy to get people on your side, especially friends and family.
Sure.
Can you believe this asshole?
Right.
You know, and everybody's going to come to your side and they're all going to say, yeah, screw that guy, you know?
Right.
But we do have to take an internal look,
sure,
you know, because, you know, we are always going to be stuck with ourselves. The easiest person for any of us to change is going to be ourselves. Right. That has to be the starting point. And it actually kind of reminds me of Lori's book. You know, when she went into therapy, she writes about that and how frustrated she was with her therapist, Wendell, because she went in there with the anticipation that she's going to say, yeah, this guy's an asshole. And her therapist is going to be like, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But the look that he gave her was a clear message back to her that, oh no, he's not taking the bait.
Yeah.
He's going to constantly get me to focus on me.
Right.
And in the end, she ends up learning a lot about herself and all of the signs that she missed, you know, that she just completely was oblivious to.
And Tess, I think that you'll notice even in our commentary, we've said very little about him, you know, only to point out his depression and the vacancy inside that he may be filling with other people. But we want to make sure that we're nudging you toward, I think, therapy. I think that's a great choice. And also reflecting a bit on boundaries and self-worth, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you understand that you are worthy of being loved, and you are worthy of being loved well, and you're allowed to have conditions. You're allowed to have statements of self-worth that tell you, I am available for relationships in which I am treated a certain way. Mm-hmm. And it's important that you self-discover what those standards are, and that those can feel intrinsically true to you to the point where you're willing to impose those standards in a relationship.
Right. And it gets really difficult too when you start saying stuff like, this is my soulmate.
It is tricky.
When you know, because again, like that happens where we don't get to always choose who we fall in love with. But either way, you may really love him.
Sure.
You may love him more than you've ever loved anybody else. But right now, the fact is he can't be in a relationship.
Yeah, and loving a version of him is fair too, right? And sometimes that's the way around the soulmate issue is to say, okay, fine, he's your soulmate, but humans change. So which version of him is it? And if he's not currently the version that is your soulmate, then there's no shame or sense of guilt or sense of inauthenticity to push him away and require change. So Tess is a great letter, very thorough, and I'm grateful to have received it. And I'm glad that just writing about it was really healthy for you. So follow up with us. Let us know how you end up finding some support and how that Canadian system works so that we can teach other people. And you can always ask Linda B. She'll tell you how to do it. She's Canuck.
There you go.
Yeah. She's Canuck. She'll tell you.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's gift exchange time. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Kyla Lansbury. Kyla Lansbury, also known as Mr. Las Vegas, as my mom opens up a plastic bag in front of Mike, is a world-famous entertainer and, of course, the author and performer of your favorite jam, Dakashay. If you know who Kyla Lansbury really is, send money. And if you'd like to support the show, you can go to www.patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
We are at the back end of the show, and we are with my special mom. Hello, Mom.
Special mom?
Well,
your only mom. That's right.
As far as I know. You're the one that pulled me out of the orphanage. You've got my loyalty. So, Mom has come here bearing gifts for us, Nick.
I have.
So, go ahead and open your bag in front of the mic now, Mom. You can rattle your plastic Target bag.
Well, there's a story behind this first, Nick.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I make, as a hobby, I make tumblers.
A tumbler is a coffee mug.
A coffee mug.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, right before coming up here, I had two that were learning ones. They messed up the epoxy and stuff on. So I was going to throw them away. But at the last minute, I decided, you know what? I think I'll take one.
Recycle your garbage and give it.
Your garbage.
Give it to Nick.
Oh.
Yay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Look at the back.
Oh, it's Pod Therapy.
A Pod Therapy tumbler. We now have
got
Pod Therapy swag.
Yes,
isn't that cool?
That is awesome.
Yeah. So it's the first official swag of Pod Therapy. So we have Pod Therapy coffee mugs.
Yeah, there's some imperfections on it.
They are finished with epoxy, and so it's like black epoxy with like glitter sparkles, and then our logo, Pod Therapy, is cut out in like a silver aluminum finish. And then our names are on the back.
That is
yours
awesome.
says Nate. That's cool.
At least it doesn't say Jim.
Yeah. It says Dr. Jim, bitch.
Of course it does.
Because my mommy made it for me.
Of course it does.
Yeah. It also says good boy. Dr. Jim is a good boy.
Why does mine say Nick, only a master's degree?
Yeah, that was really weird how that's scribbled in marker.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're
Thank you very much.
So we now have official Pod Therapy swag. So I was telling her I'm going to put her to work, and this will be like a fundraiser we do one day. Is you can order. Actually, Mom, we'll plug your website. What's your? Oh, here it is on the bottom of it. If you would like to order a mug from my mom, she has a little website. It's called The Rooster's Attic. The Rooster's Attic. So the Roosters, plural. Attic, ATTIC, at gmail.com. Wait, that's your email.
Yes, because the website's not up yet.
Okay, so just email my mom at the Roosters Attic at gmail.com. Except you, Smitty. Don't email my mom.
By the way, we need to get you in touch with Smitty Scoop.
No.
Yes.
Was it Smitty or was it Nathan?
It was Smitty. Like 10 of them have done it now. But it started with Smith. So Smith started it, and then Nathan started trying to send me things to give to Mom.
So
I just hit delete.
So we have some listeners who want to donate commercial time to you.
Okay.
Yeah, just to
so
have you slam. So fun.
Yeah, to tell some interesting gym stories.
The Roosters Attic at gmail.com, personalized one-of-a-kind tumblers. And I'm sure that you could write in and order a Pod Therapy mug. You can order either the Dr. Jim or Nate only has a master's degree.
It does actually say Nick. So
it does say Nick. But if you want to order one that says Nate has a master's degree,
it's an inside joke.
Yeah. But thank you, Mom, for being on the show.
Welcome.
And we are at the part of the show where we need to make apologies and thank new patrons.
Yes.
And we do have new patrons.
Yes, we have our new patron, Scoopiter Ascending.
Scoopiter Ascending, join the club. About time, Scoop.
Were there more than that? Because that's the only one that
I think that was the only new one.
Yep.
So I only have a few apologies. Not too many. I do apologize to San Jose and the San Jose Sharks because I have said a lot of profanity on Twitter as our teams are now in the playoffs for hockey. And Nick, did you happen to see the picture of the dolls that I posted?
I did.
The Disney princesses?
And I look hot as Pocahontas.
Did you see, how we got photoshopped? I think,
Yes.
who was it? It was Robert. Robert Paulson photoshopped the picture of the dolls to put our faces in them. And the Pocahontas one was on point.
Mm-hmm.
You look really good as Pocahontas.
Yeah.
I
agree.
would date me as
I've
Pocahontas.
saved the picture. Okay. Now that I have this vasectomy, I gotta try some things out. My best one was Ariel, I think. I think I looked pretty good as Ariel. So I always thought I looked good as a redhead. Don't you think so? You know what? That's what we should do. We should both.
Well, that's
let's
the
go get our hair
the Scottish ancestry, probably.
That's it. I'm basically the brave princess, whatever her name was.
Pocahontas.
That's not Pocahontas. Brave
She's
is the
brave.
Irish one.
Oh, yeah.
No, not the quality of being brave.
Yeah,
There's
the
a movie
redhead.
called Brave.
Yeah.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
It's one about the bear.
I didn't
It's a
see it.
mother-daughter movie. You should watch it. You'd cry.
With my daughter?
Well, if she'll take you back after
Or
this
you can
whole
stand it.
hypocrisy thing. I like that movie. I've got kids.
Okay.
I like
That's a
cartoons.
date.
Yeah. Whoa. Settle down. When do you leave? How fast can I get out of this? All right. And I think that's announcements. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, guys. And we are trying to prepare ourselves to do something really special for May. We have contacted several podcasts, and we're going to be collaborating with them in May just to try to spread the message and show folks how to find help if they need it. And we need your help. We need you to help us destigmatize mental health. We have a huge project we want to do in May. Here's how you can help. Pull out your cell phone, open up the voice memo app, whatever that is, and record a message. Record something explaining your own experience with mental health, whether that's, hey, I listened to this podcast and it gave me great thoughts on myself and I feel differently about mental health, or whether that's you've ever experienced depression or anxiety or anything you've ever personally been through, and just send a message and make it little verbal greeting card, basically, to just kind of put it out into the universe. And if you will send those to us, PodTherapyGuys at gmail.com, we're going to start collecting those here in April, and we're going to actually put them on the show in May and use that to just kind of put the message out there as we start our Kickstarter in May, and we try to help fund the show and take it to the next level. We also want to make sure that we're bringing voices of real people who have really encountered mental health as a subject in their lives, and who want to make sure that other people understand that there is no stigma in this. It's okay to look at yourself, to look at this issue of mental illness and mental health, and to feel better. There's no shame in feeling better. So if you've got something to say, pull out that voice memo. Try to keep the messages between 1 to 3 minutes and kick those into us, podtherapyguys at gmail.com. And if you want to support the show directly, you can go to patreon.com/therapy, and keep an eye out, because in May, we're going to be launching our Kickstarter, and we need all of you guys to share it for us so that we can get the word out, we can raise some funds, and we can take the show to the next level.
And we want to especially thank our bosses, the Elite Eight, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Kyla Lansbury, David at Data Scoop, Violon, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Dawn, and ex officio board member Ellie O'Dare, as well as our We still know
our
the title
super
for him.
duper Theraproducer.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level, and that was Go Fund Yourself Scoop. Yeah, so Go Fund Yourself Scoop is yet to be named.
If you have
a cool title, go ahead and send it to us.
Yeah,
Premier Czar Therazar.
And lastly, big happy birthday to Carrie.
Who's Carrie?
My sister.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
She should come on the show.
She should.
I've brought two family members onto the show.
She will, whenever she's down here next.
Come on down to Vegas, Carrie. Happy birthday. And thank you all for supporting mental health.
Thank you.
I don't have a script.
Okay, that's all the time we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords. Level 9 Studio, sorry. And thanks for those who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by opening this episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, and now at patreon.com/therapy. Do you want to submit your own questions to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangerman. I'm Jim Jobin. Thanks, and we'll see you for an appointment next week.
Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome.
I love you, Mom.
I love you too.